Hello, music fans. I'm here to talk to you about my favorite bands that start with the letter U today. And this is a pretty hard letter. There's not a lot of bands that I listen to that start with the letter U. I've only got three bands to mention today. My favorite band that starts with the letter U is Under Oath. They're a metalcore band, kind of post-hardcore screamo, emo vibes a little bit. Um, they're part of the Christian scene. Although I don't really listen to much music in that scene, but they're one of the ones that broke through and became big. Um, their early stuff with Dallas Taylor on vocals is kind of like has black metal and death metal vibes to it. So they've actually, if you've only heard like a couple of their albums, you probably don't know the extent to which there's diversity in their catalog. So for metal fans, and there's probably some album in here that you're going to like. My favorite of theirs would be 2010's Disambiguation, but then I also really love 2006 To Find the Great Line and 2008 Lost in the Sound of Separation. And I enjoy They're Only Chasing Safety from 2004 as well. So it's really those four albums from 2004 to 2010. They released four really solid albums in a row, and that's kind of what made me a fan. I don't really like their first two albums, which I still call them metalcore. Like their first two albums are still kind of metalcore, but they've got this like death metal vibe to them and black metal almost, but and the production's really not as sharp, not as good. Um, yeah, so not as much a fan of those ones. I'm also not as much of a fan of Erase Me from 2018 because that went in more of like an alternative rock, hard rock kind of radio friendly direction, which I didn't really like either. But the ones in between are pretty decent, pretty listenable, and the four in a row there from 2004 to 2010 are really solid and what I enjoy going back to. And my second favorite band that starts with U, it was actually a hard choice, hard to even come up with another one other than Under Oath. So I went with some bands that I actually just discovered this year for my number two and three spots. So I haven't had enough time to really decide where these kind of fall in my list of great bands. The one that I'm going to mention as number two is called Utopia, and they are a progressive technical metal band with some mathcore vibes, and tech death vibes. They released a great album this year called Stalker, and that's their first album. And I was really uh, surprised and blown away by it. Um, they had some great guests on this album. Guest drums from Billy Reimer and Bard Kolstad as well, who is the drummer of Leprous. So they got some great guest drummers on the various tracks. It looks like they worked with five different guest drummers, so I guess they don't have a drummer in their band. It's just guitar, vocals, bass, synths. So that's pretty cool. You got a good variety of drummers. The playing is just amazing on this. And then the other band that I'm going to mention is another band that I just discovered this year called Earn. And they're kind of like progressive sludge metal, a little bit of like metalcore and some stoner vibes in there. Their album this year is called Serpent and Spirit, and that is their first full length album as well. And really solid if you're a fan of bands like Mastodon, Cult of Luna, The Ocean. I think you'll like this. It's not quite as progressive as those bands, and it's also got a little bit of the classic heavy metal vibe to it. So like kind of a maybe an Iron Maiden type thing. There's lots of variety on here too. There's some thrashy riffs, some doomy riffs. Pretty cool band. So that's it for today for bands that start with the letter U. And tomorrow we'll talk about bands that start with the letter V, which is another difficult letter. So I'll probably only have 3 bands to talk about tomorrow as well, but see you next time. Peace out.